Whew. It was so worth watching that movie just to hear him say, "Y'all need a pilot?" Flight Risk is directed by Mel Gibson, and it's a film in which someone is a rat and he needs to be transported, but then the guy who's flying the plane is actually a part of the very organization he's ratting against. So, what did I think about it? Well, let's talk about it and give it a score. Acting. So, well, you only really deal with 3 actors during the whole entire film. First, you have Michelle Dockery, who is, of course, a U.S. Marshal federal agent who is transporting Mr. Topher Grace, the other character, the rat, the informant, over to a base to kind of get all safe and whatnot. And then you have Mark Wahlberg, who's a presumed pilot of this flight, but then turns out that he's actually a bad guy, and then all hell breaks out. This film is interesting from an acting standpoint because sometimes these characters play so well with each other, but at other times they feel just like caricatures and parodies of their own characters. Mark Wahlberg is nuts and sometimes just overly nuts and psycho. Topher Grace as well. Topher Grace, he just keeps talking and cracking jokes, trying to alleviate the tension. And, well, it sometimes lands and most of the time doesn't land. Then you have Michelle Dockery, like I said. She's the agent, and she plays this woman who has some history to her, and she's very bland at times, but also very intriguing at times. It's hard to kind of pinpoint exactly what's great about the performances, other than the fact that they do something smart. 99% of the movie, it's in the plane. Smart move by Mel Gibson. Now you don't have to intertwine these side characters who use phone calls to communicate with the other characters on the plane. You don't have to tangle them with side plots or anything of that nature. You just focus on the plane. So big kudos, and really for that reason, I'm going to give it a 0.5 star out of 1 within this category. Visuals. Well, that was disappointing. This film had everything in the palm of their hands. They had an opportunity to do something really cool with having 3 people in the sky on this small little passenger plane, and it kind of just looks okay. The lighting is fine. Don't get me wrong. The color, fine, whatever. The CGI moose was just ridiculous. Yes, there's a moose. I'm not going to tell you where the moose comes into play because I think it's funnier knowing that y'all don't know when the moose comes into play in this plane movie. They had an opportunity to do something really cool with some cool steady shots and some cool long takes, but they just go full on straight, just basic Hollywood and cut up a bunch of action shots, and it's just not appealing to me. So with all that being said, I'm just going to give it 0 stars out of 1 within this category. I tackled with a 0.5 star or 0 stars for quite some time, but it's just uninspiring how they shot it. Audio. Well, I talked about it in the acting. A lot of the other side characters only communicate via phone, and that's smart. Now you don't have to worry about side plots. Who cares about faces with names? It doesn't matter. It works, and it works really well. The other way they communicate is via headset, through, of course, the comms with other people within the plane, Mark Wahlberg to Michelle Dockery to Topher Grace, so on and so forth. The film was brilliant when they used this aspect and these aspects in general because it just makes the film feel not only realistic but also so self-contained. But I always say this. If a film establishes a rule within their universe, you go with it. You run with it no matter how crazy it is. Like Marvel. They ain't people with superpowers, but since they've established the rules of the universe, it's fine. You could have that disbelief and make it make sense. Here, it's grounded in reality. It is. There's no mentions of it being any other than the sort. And the very thing that I really enjoyed, which was their headsets. Well, they get in the plane. Mark Wahlberg's character already has the headset on. Michelle Dockery's character is trying to talk to him, and he goes, headsets. She puts them on and they communicate. Therefore, the rule is established while in the plane during the flight. You need these to communicate with everyone. Topher Grace is trying to communicate with them, and they don't hear a thing because they're talking through the comms, and he's doing Topher Grace things. The rule was established within the first few minutes, and then they break it. When you break rules, it just makes me upset, makes me frustrated, because 90% of the movie after the fact, they don't use it. Sorry, not sorry. I'm going to give this category 0 stars out of 1 within this category. Story, such a brilliant concept. I really like the idea of a criminal basically bamboozling his way to be the pilot of a flight in which an informant is going to rat on that organization that he's a part of, and it's a smart concept. The depths of the characters are brilliant and smart, even though sometimes they feel like caricatures of themselves. They do some really interesting, cool things. At no time do I feel like it's mainly coincidence that all this stuff is happening. Even though the twists and turns are very obvious from a mile away, it all makes sense why someone's there and so on and so forth. But this film has a very big tendency of dropping storylines and plot lines like it's just a part of movie making. There are some questions that never get answered. Ever. You question what happens, and then certain things happen, and you question why this happened, and then certain things happen where you go, hey, that doesn't work in real life. And you go, well, they broke the rules, and there's so many dumb things that happen in this film that made my head go scratchy, and, well, I just didn't like the story after that. The concept, brilliant. The execution, very poor, and that's why I'm going to give it 0 stars out of 1 within this category. Enjoyment. This is definitely a January movie. People are going to like this film, okay? People are going to really, really enjoy this film because they're either big fans of Mark Wahlberg, Topher Grace, Michelle Dockery, Mel Gibson, or all 4 of them, or a combination of any number of them. The story is dumb, and it's not executed well, but it's an easy watch. Sure, if you go in and you say it's a dumb action movie, you're gonna be entertained. But I don't like movies to be dumb for the sake of being dumb because, hey, we're an action movie, look at us, let's do whatever we want. I like smart movies. Movies that not only can tell a great story, but be executed very well with its actual whole entire concept that they're working with. As soon as those credits rolled, I got out of my seat and said this movie was crap, and I went and got in my car and said, wow, that was crap. I didn't have high hopes for this film either. I thought this film was going to be okay at best, and I don't even think it even hit that. And the inconsistent characters, drop plot lines, the visual just ugliness of how they deal with the film, some audio rule breaks, the story not being executed well. I didn't enjoy this film whatsoever, and that's why in this category I give it 0 stars out of 1. So, if you are keeping track at home, that means Flight Risk gets a 0.5 star out of 5. I think this film is horrible.